we won't forget.
Yay! It's the regular meeting of Rundfunk mitbestimmen at Agile Ventures. It's so far it's only Federico and I. We probably have a look at the recent pull request done by Matt and Faith. Matt and Faith were pairing together, I think, yesterday. I'm not quite sure. I forgot time. Maybe Matt will also join us later on. I'll probably just share my screen, right? I didn't have time to look at the pull request before we have the regular meeting, but I hope that this will not make a big difference. Share screen, your entire screen, share. Inception. Okay, this is the pull request. It's a long-running pull request in general. I would say let's avoid long-running pull requests. What's your opinion on this, Federico?
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, I think if you have long-running pull requests, they tend to be hard to maintain, right?
Yeah, and the rest of the code base will get out of sync with the.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because you started from commit like 2 months ago, and in the meantime, the master branch has developed quite a lot. You can avoid that by merging in the master branch from time to time.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's hard to maintain and hard to review because the changed files are just a lot. But yeah, we have 20 changed files. This is just a lot to review.
Yeah, usually the smaller the better with the pull request.
Right, exactly. So Matt was telling me that this pull request, for some reason, they had difficulties because they made the build server crash. So this was the last commit where the build server actually passed, and here we have the commit that made the build server crash. And so what I was suggesting to them in the pull request was to dry the code a little bit. So this pull request, or I think 3 people were involved in this pull request. That is Matt, Faith, and Domenico. And Domenico is responsible for the backend code, while Faith and Matt together were pairing on the front-end part. So I was giving them a review and suggesting to them to dry up parts of the front-end code. I cannot see. Do you know where I can see the... No?
What are you trying to see, Robert?
The stuff that I was where I was giving improvements on. So apparently it's this one here. So this is at least my review.
Okay.
And let's see if I can also go to the code. Yes. So what you cannot see, so this is a component in Ember, right? And Ember components can have actions. You can tie buttons, for example, to trigger actions.
Right.
Just let me start the application. So you have a button, and you can, for example, say, I want to update the current gender. I think Matt and Faith, they had 2 drop-down menus, and each of those drop-down menus should trigger a change when the user selects one of the options.
Okay.
Right? And the 2 actions were called update gender and update age group.
Okay.
The 2 actions were so similar to, like, the idea is that you set the gender instead of age group, but you have a function
which takes gender as a parameter and just updates the user if the user exists with the respective attribute here. And then called save. Federica, are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still with you. So you were trying to get them to refactor it, to dry it up?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you easily can, you could remove the code duplication here, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that changes this part. So I was suggesting this here. So you have one method that takes the attribute that is to be changed as a parameter.
Yeah.
And then sets the attribute with the value provided. That would be the second parameter.
Yeah.
You don't have experience with Ember.js, do you?
No, actually I do. Just I haven't really worked on a real project with Ember.
Yeah. So you have to kind of make up your mind regarding the syntax. Usually you have the syntax that you have the function and then parameter 1, parameter 2. So you have the function name, then parentheses, and inside the parentheses a list of parameters divided by comma. Okay?
Right.
But the handlebar syntax is kind of different. The handlebar syntax is just first of all, you want to say, I want to trigger an action here. And then you give the name of the function as a string, by the way. Like this. And the rest, separated by spaces, is the list of parameters. Sorry. All right? So this left part here would be roughly equivalent to this one. Right?
Yeah, got it.
This was what I was suggesting. So now you learned something, how to make use of that. So this is how you would do it. So you have the action. Then if you put that into a button, then this button will trigger the action on the component where the button belongs to. I'll show it with a code. So such a component belongs consists of 3 parts. You have JavaScript code with a component. This is the component. We have update gender and update age group. So this is the behavior.
Right.
And you have a template. And the template is in app templates, then components, and there you find the template for in our case, demographic form. Right?
Okay.
Are you still with me?
Yes.
Cool. So, and here you have several actions. So you can say, okay, this is a little bit difficult now because this is yet another syntax. So if you have just plain HTML, and let's say you have a button, this would be just plain HTML, then you could say curly braces, and action, whatever action. This would just trigger the method, whatever action that is defined here. So component is a JavaScript object or JavaScript class with a couple of methods and an actions property. This actions property itself has a couple of methods here. So this is like accessing this property here, which is an object. It will get the key whatever action. So if you had a method whatever action, it will run, or it will call this function here. And then you can add a couple of parameters if you want. And those will go in here. Right?
Yep.
So I was suggesting maybe we can refactor those two by just having a generic update method and have an attribute and the actual value. Like this. And then instead of gender, we say attribute, and the gender is, of course, our value. And then we can just remove those two. And soon we can then see, okay, where did we have update gender? Whoop, typo. So this is yet another syntax. So when you have those curly braces already, and you want to pass a method as a callback and as a property into the component. So these were, now we had, I don't know, five strange words in one sentence, but you have the curly braces here.
Yeah.
The hashtag signals a component, and the syntax with key equal sign and then something is a property that you pass into the component. So here we pass gender dropdown as an ID, and something as a class, and something as on change. Does it make sense?
Yeah, and that's where you pass in the.
So it looks strange, but it's still handlebar syntax.
Okay.
But the point here is if you want, let's say you have a component and you want to pass properties or callbacks into it, this is the way to go. So this action here comes from the parent component or parent controller, depends where this component is rendered. And this is the name of the property within that property here. So this comes from a plugin, but let's say this would be in our code base, then we could have the property on change somewhere here, right? Does it make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And since we have components inside a component, so the parent component here is our demographic component, we want to pass in this callback in here. So the right side of the assignment belongs to our parent component. The left side of the assignment belongs to the child component, which is UI dropdown in our example.
Got it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it's just a callback.
Sorry?
Yeah, and we have Faith join us.
Oh, hello, Faith. I didn't notice. Hi.
You just joined.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Yeah. We were just going over the recent pull request.
Okay. The one with the failing.
Why it was failing. How long have you been listening?
Like half a minute.
Half a minute. Okay. But probably, did you understand what I was suggesting in this review? Like
Right.
this review here?
Yes.
I think the difficult part here is to understand the syntax. As soon as you understand the syntax, it's not that difficult anymore. Or what's your opinion on it, Federico?
I would agree. Yeah, exactly like you said. Once you understand the syntax, it's fairly easy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so looks like this. So these are the two dropdowns which are disabled right now because I'm not logged in. But these are the two dropdowns we were talking about. So what happens is if we have this file changed and we still have update gender here, and we trigger this action, weird. Yeah, then we have an error because we see error, assertion failed. An action named update gender was not found. Oh, I cannot read it. Here you go. An action update gender was not found in frontend add component demographic form. So in this component, we don't have the action update gender. That's right, because we just deleted it. So all we have to do is to change that one here.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
And we have to pass a parameter. Huh? Why is there no second parameter? I mean, action update. And where's the gender? Oh no. Okay, this looks a little bit more difficult than I thought. Because apparently this component does some internal stuff. So I see this gender here, user.gender. That's from the user model. But we don't pass in the gender attribute on the action directly. Okay. Okay, this is a little bit difficult. I see. Probably this doesn't work at all.
So, have you figured out why you can't pass in the attribute?
Say it again.
Why is it that you can't pass in the attribute? Why is it that you cannot pass in the attribute?
You mean why the
right there? Yeah.
I didn't get the question. Can you repeat?
Yeah, just right there on the onChange function. Why can't you pass in the gender attribute?
I don't know. I just saw that there was no gender attribute before.
Right.
And so I was just confused because I was expecting it to be here. So from that, I conclude that apparently you're not supposed to pass in the function with the value in here, just the name of the function. Maybe that's the bug. I don't know. Let's see. We didn't check why the build server failed. We should do that maybe. So let's get back to the pull request. So you can always see, Faith, maybe that's also interesting for you. I hope you've already found out that you have those icons here indicating the state of the build server when you go to the commit log. Have you seen this before, Faith?
I've seen it.
You have seen it, all right. So this one was okay. This one failed. So I'm not now going to click on this one. So we always, for a pull request, we have always two build server runnings, like how do you call it? Federico, what's the correct wording here? Executions?
Yeah, execution.
So, and both have failed. This is a strong indicator that apparently this is not a flaky test that was failing randomly, but apparently we have a problem here. And if you scroll down the log, you have to watch out for red lines indicating an error. So in here, we have the front-end tests, which are failing. Okay. And then we have to find the specific test case that failed. And the test cases that were failing are always marked with not okay. Interesting. So apparently there was no front-end test executed at all because there's a parse error. So we have a parse error, which is pretty substantial error. Just as for you to have a comparison, we can check out the passing build here, and there you see the front-end tests, which are here, as you can see. Okay, here we have some deprecation warnings, but those are just warnings, and those deprecation warnings will not fail the test run. Okay. So it's our goal now to see what happened. What's the deal? Why do we have the parser error in the front end? And I'm going to pull the latest changes of this branch. Let's say git reset hard, reset origin gender. So what I'm doing now is I'm resetting the current local branch to the remote branch. So I'm behind gender demography by 6 commits, and I just say, okay, I want to fast forward on those on the new stuff. Looks a bit strange since I say reset, but yeah, reset means just get me back to the state of a commit or a branch or whatever. Boom. Okay, I still have changes. Reset hard will definitely reset those changes and just discards them. Oh, I'm using aliases, so get GST is just git status. Now I have a clean. I'm up to date with origin gender demography, and there's nothing to commit. The working tree is clean. Cool. Now I'm just saying amber test serve. I don't know, have you ever run front-end tests on your local machine, Faith?
No.
So this is the command in order to set up a local test server, which you can later on see in your browser window. So it's building the front end now. And after a couple of seconds, so maybe 30 or 40 seconds on my machine, because it's so slow, we have the test server up and running.
Okay.
Push, you can always check if you see any errors on your machine.
Okay.
So now the test server is running, and there's a browser that automatically opens, and the several front-end tests are now being executed. So, and we have already 2 failures. So what kind of what's confusing here is that we have 2 failures and 67 passing tests, while on the build server we had, as you may remember or may recall, we had we basically had no test because there was a compiler error. So this is weird. But anyhow, maybe if we fix maybe the 2 commands here, maybe they behave in a different way on the build server and on our machine. Or what's your opinion on it, Federico? Maybe you have an idea.
I'm not sure. I am noticing that it had something cached there with the Ember test. Maybe that's a factor on Travis.
Yeah. So too many browser windows open. I'll have to find. Yeah, there it is. So if I click on failures, I immediately get to the failing test, and it's failing selecting age group from dropdown, selecting gender from dropdown. This makes sense because that's what we were changing. So apparently there was a backend call to the mocked backend for one user, but somehow the test did not. There was nothing. The mock backend did not catch the request. Okay, let's go into the test. The test is in acceptance visualized demography. Test. Acceptance visualized demography. Well, yeah. And it's logged in, selecting gender from dropdown. Logged in, selecting gender from dropdown. There we go. So what is it doing? So it's creating a user. It's mocking a query record, which is important because when we visit the site here and we are logged in, then the user is sorry. Where is it? Localhost. When I'm logged in, the user record will be retrieved from the backend. So now I'm not logged in, but I will be soon. Visualization, demographic visualization. So this will trigger a backend request, as you can see here. Well, no, there it is. This one here. All right. This is what the test also mocks. So because we are visiting this site, this request needs to be kind of mocked. But this is not the problem here. The problem here is that nothing returned. Like the patch request is if we update the user. So apparently we are visiting the site. Now the query record is hit. And we click on gender dropdown and a key event menu. What? Never saw that before. Matt. Uh-huh. Interesting. All right, so but apparently we are kind of selecting the menu and then click on the option female. So we say, okay, we are female now. And then we expect that the update user mock is called. It's exactly one time. Does that make sense? That Rico, do you think it's looking good? What do you say about this code?
Yeah, so what's being returned? Nothing's being returned, right?
No, it's not returning anything. It's just checking whether if we click on the dropdown, there should be a backend request.
Yeah, for the user, right?
Yeah, so when I'm logged in and I click on gender and I say female, that's pretty much what the test does. Then there should be a backend request here. And yeah. So there's a patch request, this one. So apparently this is an issue with the test itself.
Okay.
Right? But since we had a working build, I would actually like to see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 commits since then. What actually happened in those commits? And to do so, I can get the commit hash either from GitHub. Come on. This is the commit hash here, or this one. Even easier. So this is the commit hash. But we can also get it from the code. Let's say git log. I see the new commits here. And this one here. I think it's this one, right? Yeah, so this is the first commit by you, Faith, and this is my commit, right?
Yeah.
I just copy that. And then I say, okay, what changed from that time up to now, which would be the current pad. This is the commit that we just checked out, right?
Yeah.
So this is what the diff between those two commits. So we refactored this one, yeah. So the red lines, they are gone. And we have the attribute, yeah, that makes sense. And here, so apparently this method, you put in 2 parameters. So before we had no parameter at all. So with some magic, this component was able to run this method on this gender thing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you gave it 2 parameters. That is the gender and this string here. But it should be the user gender, I guess. And it's still working because it doesn't care about this attribute, apparently. All right. Interesting. And this is it. We don't have anything changed but this. Right, but it looks quite okay. So what's the problem? Maybe this graphic template. This is just the problem Y. Gender. And let's just remove this and this. Okay. It's just the age group now. Let's see if it's still working. So we have our network, and when I say I am logged in, I say female, and there's a patch. All right, so this works, great.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the tests? Ah, there. So where's the browser? There's the browser. So in the meantime, when I change something, the builds, the transpiled files and stuff is I have too many windows. I'm sorry for that. I hope you can still follow. I'm searching for the tab where I have the here it is. So this is the terminal where the front end is currently running in, and it's compiling the source code. So it's watching changes to the source code, and when I do some changes, it changes the source code, builds the entire stuff, and all the tests are rerun. All right. So in the meantime, as you may remember, we had 2 failures, and now those failures are fixed. Apparently, just because I was removing the last parameter, which was not required by this component.
All right. Nice job.
Yeah, cool. Oh, all we have to do is now check it and say fix front-end tests. Oops. And git push. So GP is short for git push on my machine. And this will trigger another build. And let's keep our fingers crossed that it will work this time.
How long does it usually take?
All right, so Faith and Federica, was this helpful? Did you learn something? Is this something you got something out of? Talk to me.
Me, yes, of course. I'm getting more familiar with the code base.
You're not familiar, or you are familiar with the code base?
Yeah, well, a little bit, but I haven't really spent a whole lot of time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it did help me. Faith?
Yeah, it was helpful as well, considering I had seen this code yesterday, and doing it again makes it have more sense, than yesterday.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe I was talking a lot, and if you kind of if you didn't follow each and every step I did, this Hangout is recorded. So if you want, you can later on check out the YouTube window and see. Okay, I'm checking out the latest build, which was passing, comparing that to the state when it was failing, and what had happened, what happened in the meantime, and I don't know, trying to set up the application for the failing state and see if when I change something, maybe some front-end tests are now being fixed and stuff. So If something isn't too, if something was too fast, you can always check out the video. I hope.
Okay.
I don't know. If I'm talking too much or if I'm talking too quickly, just tell me. Or if something is not quite clear. Hey, Matt. Matt, you're there as well.
Finally.
Hi.
I was hitchhiking home.
Oh no. What
Rides.
happened? Were you planning to hitchhike back home?
Yeah, we hitchhike every week, there and back. It's because if we take a bus, then we have to take a bus downtown, and then we have to take another bus from downtown to another terminal, and then take another bus from that terminal to our house. So it's kind of faster to hitchhike, even though sometimes you stand on the street for 20 minutes, you know?
Yeah, I see. And in other countries, it's absolutely common to just hitchhike. Pretty much everywhere.
Here in Brazil, it's a little bit more like people are like, no, you're gonna get murdered, you know. And then but here on the island, like it's a little bit better, you know.
Cool. Yeah, I was in the last 50 minutes by now. I was just going through the latest pull request, and I was just pushing something that I hope will fix the build server.
Oh, nice. You're talking about the what was failing on the last thing that Faith and I tried to push, or are you talking about something different?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I was talking about the syntax and how this relates to the code, and where you have to add parameters and where you don't have to. So I guess you added one parameter too much. This is it.
So but it looks like you guys are recording, so I can watch back.
Exactly. I was suggesting that before you joined.
Nice.
Yeah,
I still wanted to
pretty much at the end.
I still wanted to at some point. I probably now is not a good time, but at some point when I wanted to talk to you about Dockerizing, because I missed that whole part, you know. And I was looking at your Docker file and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, all right, because that when you explained about the Dockerizing Rundfunk, you didn't push record, I think.
It is online, so there's a branch called Docker Update, because there is an installation with Docker which is pretty outdated, and Docker Update is supposed to update that installation in order to run the tests as well, and run a service sidekick, which wasn't there when the first installation was pushed. You can check it out. Okay. But Docker is a whole new world for me as well, and I'm not very. So I understand. By now, I think I get it, most of it, but it's still something I'm not quite sure. I'm still feel a little bit, how you say, uncomfortable with it. I don't know.
Out of place, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was watching some videos today, and then I participated in a scrum, and Sam kind of helped me to. I think he said something about how, because I'm using continuous integration, and it was failing to, and then I started researching the problem, and for some reason, it's funny because if you don't know what you're looking for, sometimes you can find the wrong solution to the problem, right? Because you don't.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I ended up getting in my head that I'm just going to Dockerize it, you know. And then he was talking to me, and he was saying, "Well, it seems like that's kind of he's made a comment about how it seems like using a sledgehammer." So then he suggested something, and I ended up fixing it, and I've kind of put it on the back burner right now, because I found that I watched a bunch of I took a look at the Docker docs, and I watched some videos, and I looked at some tutorials and with Rails specific, but it seems like there's lots of there's different ways of doing it, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, before we start into the chatting, Federico and Faith, Federico, for example, you're with us since almost an hour now. So if you have something to do, like sleeping, feel free to leave us, and we can also stop the recording and like finish the regular meeting here.
So I'm okay for another 6 minutes till 3 o'clock my time. Yeah.
Wow. So it's 3 o'clock at your place now.
It's almost 3 o'clock.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
3 o'clock at night.
No, PM.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Much
I'm
better.
in.
Right, you're in the US, so
Yeah.
it's not too late for you. But
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
okay.
Faith, it's very late, right?
Yes.
Yeah, gotta get Faith is, I think, 1 in the morning or something, you know.
But anyways, I will hit the stop broadcast button, because then the YouTube video it doesn't get too long, and people are always put off by long videos, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
So I'll hit the stop broadcast button.